Alhamdulillahillazi hadana wa ja'alana minal muslimin. As-salatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursalin Sayyidina Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we know that means peace be upon you. That is the great greeting of peace. And you are watching, of course, Hilaal TV. And today, or right now, my topic is ethics, morals, and character. In other words, how you react among people. You see, what happens is that I based today's topic on Surah Al-Hujurat. And you know, Surah Al-Hujurat is the chapter 49 of the Quran. And it's only 18 verses. And what is it that I ask most of the people that I know? Memorize it, learn the meaning. It's one of the greatest guidance that we can have for our day-to-day life. To say that if we follow those teachings that are there, right, and you find that we can coexist within our society, within our people, within our area, neighborhood, and you know, as our late Madiba said, we are a rainbow nation. So how we all coexist. So let us see, right? I chose certain selected verses. We start with chapter 49, verse number 6, right? Now here you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, right? Ya ayyuhallazina amanu. Allah is addressing the believers. O believers, right? In ja'akum fasikum binabayin, that an evildoer or a person, a wicked person, brings you any news, right? Somebody will tell you, you know, I saw Aisha going 11 in the night in the car, or I saw that man was stealing at the job and he got fired, right? Or you say, you know, this young man is getting married to so and so, you know, he is a womanizer and he is a druggie. Now you see, this is what people can come you with information, right? So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us here, right? In ja'akum fasikum binabayin, that if a fasik, meaning fasik, what is the meaning of fasik? Meaning a person who is a wicked person, you unreliable. But I would say two things. Even if a person that is reliable come with a message, first of all, why must you go and repeat it and say it? That's another thing. So both things are wrong, you see, just to accept. And then, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says us, in ja'akum fasikun, right? Binabain, with any information, fatabayyanu, Allah says, investigate it. Investigate it, because did Aisha really go out to the strange man at night, or was she not going with her father or with her brother or with her son? Or did that guy actually lose his job because he was stealing? Or this man is getting married to this girl, is he really a womanizer or a drug addict? You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, fatabayyanu, our duty is what? That we must investigate it. Right? And why Allah says we must? Why Allah says we must investigate it? Fatabayyanu, right? Antusibu qawman bijahalatin, lest you harm somebody, right? Harm somebody out of your ignorance, unknowingly and innocently. You just go and pass the message. Allah says, Antusibu qawman bijahalatin, that out of your ignorance, out of your carelessness, you harm somebody by making a wrong statement without investigating it. So that is, Allah says, then what happened? Right? وَتُسْبِتُوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلْتُمْ نَادِمِينَ. Then after that, when you have done that wrong, then what you do, you regret. You say, I'm so sorry what I did, you know, I broke that man's engagement. I spoiled his reputation that he did steal. In fact, he did not reach, and Aisha, I made people talk ill about her, that she's going out to strangers at night. You see, so these are things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, fatabayyanu, meaning investigate before you pass on. And as I say, right, any information, not only from fasik, a lawbreaker, anybody comes with any information, Allah says, fatabayyanu and tusibu qawman bijahalatin. So let us see another thing, another verse. From this, as I said, today we are discussing some of the selected verses from Surah 49, chapter 49. The next one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Innamal mu'minuna ikhwatun wa aslihu bayna akhwakum. That what it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that believers, the believers are what? They are one brotherhood. Right, so make peace between your brothers. You see, Allah says, right, that He's وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. Also in this surah, what you call Hujurat, that Allah created you into tribes, into families. You are different. Some are black, you come from Africa. Some are brown, you come from Asia. Some are white, you come from Europe. These are all different people. Right, if Allah says that believers are what? They belong to that one brotherhood. You don't say, this belong to this caste and that man belong to that caste. I cannot marry so and so because he's not my caste. You see, Allah says there is no such thing as, because Muslims are brotherhood. So what Allah says, فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ إِخْوَيْكُمْ, that you must bring about that peace and tranquility and understanding among whom? Right, between all your brothers, all brothers and sisters. And wattaqullah la'allakum turhamun. How beautiful Allah says. Be conscious of Allah. Right, because if you are going to say that you look down upon people because you belong to another caste or another race, whereas Allah says you are brothers. And you know Allah, so wattaqullah, Allah says, be conscious of Allah, la'allakum turhamun, in order that mercy may be shown to you. So you see, respected viewers, how important it is that we must forget this business of, because Allah's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, even in his Hajjatul Wala, he warned us. What did he say? La fadla li Arabiyun ala ajam. There is no superiority for an Arab over a non-over an Ajam. Wala li ajamin ala Arab. And neither is there superiority for a non-Arab over an Arab illa bi taqwa, except on a basis of taqwa. That is, righteousness is going to show you who is greater, who is highest. So if you have to appoint an imam or appoint a public servant, you do not going to go according to your race and your caste and all that. You see, so therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Innamal mu'minuna ikhwatun fa aslihu bayna akhwaykum. Let us take another verse. Now, as I said, we are just selecting verses at random from surah, what you call Hujurat. Like now here, Allah says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, oh you have believed. Right? La yaskhar qawmun min qawmin. Asa an yakunu khairan, that do not mock, do not make fun of, do not laugh, do not jest. One group of people, one nation laughing at another. Right? Why? You say, oh, me, I'm an Indian. That fellow is an African. Look at how he is. My culture is this. I eat biryani. He is eating pap and flesh. Make a laugh, mockery of it. You see? So because Allah says, Asa an yakunu khairam minhum, maybe that I as an Indian, that African is better than me in his taqwa. So what Allah is going to judge you, inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Allah is going to judge you on your taqwa, not what you see. So Allah says one nation should not mock and laugh at another nation. So because you feel that I dress like this and you are dressing like that and you are eating like this, I'm eating like that, so what? Allah has created us different. So Allah has made it very, and especially Allah has special emphasis, right? Wala nisa'un. Wala nisa'un bin nisa'in. said, let not, especially why did Allah mention women? Isn't perhaps the women have got that habit of mocking one another? You go to a wedding, you find, oh, that woman is wearing the same dress for the third time. Well, look at that woman. She doesn't even know how to bring up her children. And women, as you see, not me, Allah has mentioned that. Look at that verse when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Wala nisa'um min nisa'. Let not one group of women mock and laugh at another group of women. Can you see? An yakunna khayran minhunna. Maybe the woman that you are laughing at is wearing the same dress for the third time. Maybe she's got a double degree, and you are sitting on your husband's earning, and you are very smartly dressed. You say, look at me, how nice I look. Look at the fingers, look at the rings I have. Look at my latest Punjabi or my latest dress. But that person that you are laughing at, as Allah says, Asa an yakunna khayran minkum. Maybe that person you are laughing and you mocking is better than you. You see, so what is very, very important, respected viewers, that these are some of the selected verses from Surah Hujarat. And you know, Surah Hujarat is chapter 49 of the Quran. I would actually suggest that memorize all of them, go through them, and there is a storehouse of knowledge. Like this one here, Allah says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu la yaskhar qawmun min qawmin. Let not one group of people laugh at another, right? Because you might be laughing at that person for driving a small car and you are driving a big car, the latest model, maybe a BMW, or you're driving a latest series of Mercedes Benz or something like that. But you are laughing at him, you are mocking at him. But where he wants to go, he can go. You also go there. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that an yakunu khayran minhum. Maybe he's better than you in character, in taqwa, in education, in everything else. He may be doing more social work, more than you. You see, so these are very, very important things, respected viewers, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we are not to mock at one another, right? And then you must look at the quality of the person. A quality of the person meaning how educated that person is. That person may be educated, right? Maybe more educated than you are. You see, so that person can tell you exactly what you must do, what you must acquire. And of course, we shall go for a short break, and inshallah, after that short break, we shall give you more verses from the Quran. And you see, what is very important is good. We must have character. We must have character. We must not do things that are antisocial, right? Laugh at people and carry tales, and before investigation, go and pass the message. And of course, you are watching Hilaal TV's program, Quranic Concept, presented by myself, Abdul Samad Abdul Qadir. And inshallah, after a short break, we shall conclude this particular topics in the next half, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the program Quranic Concepts. And of course, you are watching Hilaal TV. And today we are discussing about etiquettes, manners, and how we interact, how we coexist among people. And I selected certain special verses from Surah Hujarat, that is chapter 49 of the Quran, and we discussed in the first half, we discussed about chapter 6, where we learn that whenever somebody comes with some information, we must investigate it before we pass it, because in that we harm innocent people. Remember that. And then Allah says that innamal mu'minuna ikhwatun, we are brotherhood. And then just before the break, the verse told us, do not laugh, do not mock, do not make fun of people, right? That perhaps the person you are, la yaskhar qawmun min qawmin, that person you are mocking, you laughing, Allah says, asan yakunu khayrum minhum. Maybe that person is better than you. You follow? So these things here are very, very important. So let us see the next verse. As I told you, I've selected certain verses from Surah Al-Hujurat, that is chapter, what you call 49 of the Quran. Now you find among the things that Allah, right, will tell us in the next verse where Allah says, "Wala tajassasu," for instance, right? "Wala talmizu anfusakum." "Wala talmizu" means do not start defaming one another. Right? This is another bad habit people have. That way Allah says, "Wala talmizu," do not defame. Right? Do not talk about people. Do not give them bad character. Do not talk about other people's children. Do not talk about other people's wives. Do not talk about other people. Right? Because what happens, Allah says, "Wala talmizu anfusakum," and then "Wala tanabazu bil alqab," that do not call one another by derogatory and offensive nicknames. Now you see nicknames. What is alqab? Alqab, you find a lot of people have nicknames. Like for instance, our Nabi was called Abul Qasim, the father of Qasim. Then you find the first Khalif was called Abu Bakr. Then you find a famous Sahabi, Abu Huraira, because of his love for kittens. So people give names like that, right? Right? That is a different thing, right? But to say that you're going to call somebody "Wala tanabazu bil alqab," that do not call one another by offensive or derogatory nickname. Like for instance, we are in South Africa, right? And you know, when Madiba told us that we are a rainbow nation, that we are to call each other, respect each other, that's how we coexist. There are so many different races in the world, not only in South Africa. If you look at a cricket match, or you look at a soccer match, right, people representing England, you'll find different races. Right, you find any European country, there's lots of different races. So the world has come into think that it has become like so. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Wala tanabazu bil alqab." Like you see in South Africa, right? It is a big offense to use a K word. We cannot use a K word because "Wala tanabazu bil alqab," do not call one another by derogatory. The Quran has told us 1,500 years ago this is wrong. And you know the great boxer Muhammad Ali, the world champion from America, right? What happened? They wanted him to go and fight the Viet Cong. I read his book and his famous statement, "The Vietnamese did not call me a nigger." You see, so that is a derogatory nickname. So every nation you find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, "Wala tanabazu bil alqab." Do not, and the worst thing is, especially when a person has become a Muslim, as you look at that verse tells us that bi'sal fusuq, the worst thing is to give somebody a name after he's become a Muslim. You see, now you see, like sometimes you find, if you look, we in South Africa, you find somebody is tall. In the Zulu language, you know, in the African, they say, "Oh, Langwan," the tall one. But that is not derogatory. But if you're going to use it in a teasing way, then it will become derogatory. Like you find somebody is fat. Now in Zulu, you say mafuta, right? You call him fatty. In English, you say fatty. In Zulu, we'll say mafuta. But that is, you cannot use that as a derogatory way. You follow? So that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, "Wala tanabazu bil alqab." Do not call one another by derogatory nickname. So let us see the next verse, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us. You see, and Allah talks about some of the habits that we may have. Right? Ya ayyuhallazina amanu istanibu kasiram minaz zan. Inna ba'da zanni ismun. Right? No suspicion. Allah says, "Oh, you believe, refrain a lot from zan." Zan means suspicion and guesswork. And what Allah says, "Inna ba'da zanni ismun," some form of zan, meaning suspicion. Right? What is it? It is sinful. Now, for instance, obviously, like somebody will say, "Oh, why is this person is wearing this blue shirt with that stripe and all?" Now you become suspicious about, why am I wearing that? Or why am I am I driving that car? Or why did I go and visit someone so and so? Right? So Allah says what it is, inna ba'da zanni ismun. Some of the zan, meaning your conjecture, your guesswork, your assumption, it can become sinful. You see, sinful, because if you see now somebody is walking with someone, oh, I wonder what this person is walking with him, he's up to some mischief. No. But of course, there's nothing wrong in you if you are going to be watchful to say that, you know what, I have a suspicion as a stranger in my yard. Therefore, Allah says, Inna ba'da zanni, some form of suspicion are sinful. But you find there are certain suspicion can be, right? If you find, like for instance, if you see a person, right, his behavior is different, you must be suspect that is he taking drugs or is he under the influence of liquor, right? That is a justified suspicion, of course, right? But you be suspicious about everything. Allah says, right, that you must not be suspicious of everything. The next one, Allah says, "Wala tajassasu." The same verse as you see in the screen. "Wala tajassasu" mean do not spy one on the other. Do not spy. Now you know what you mean by spying. Especially you find some families, they have a very bad habit. The granny will tell the child, he says, you must tell me who comes here to visit your father, who your mother did speak to, and when I am gone, your daddy is gone, where your mother goes, who your mother speaks to. That is wala tajassa. You training the child to be a wrong person. So when the child goes to school, the child does the same thing. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, Appa. Excuse me, Muallim. So and so did this. You say, Allah has warned you, wala tajassasu. Do not spy. And then what happens when you get into that habit? You cause a lot of trouble between your colleagues at work. You see, so that is also absolutely wrong. And then what Allah says, wala yakhtab ba'dukum ba'dan. That what it means, do not backbite one another. Do not make ghibat, wala yakhtab, do not make ghibat, ba'dukum ba'dan, one another. What do you mean by ghibat? Means you backbite, meaning, right, I will say something, Yusuf, I will speak about Yusuf behind his back because I do not have the courage to tell Yusuf, this is what you are. So what happens, right? Then I am talking ill about somebody, backbiting behind him, which is absolutely wrong. You see, now what is backbiting? You know how serious it is in backbiting. If you backbite, you talk ill about somebody, you know, you see, you talk ill. Of course, you are allowed to talk about an oppressor or a bad government or a bad prime minister, bad president or something. That is a different thing. But generally, to backbite about people, to speak ill behind the back, that's the meaning of backbite. Right? What Allah says about backbiting, let us see in that next verse what Allah says. Ayuhibbu ahadukum. Right? That ayuhibbu ahadukum an yakula lahma akhi. That would you like to eat the flesh of your dead brother? Can you imagine what is backbiting in the eyes of Allah? Do you like, would you love? Ayuhibbu ahadukum an yakula lahma akhihi maitan, to eat the flesh of your dead brother. What you'll do? فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ, and you are going to hate it. You are going to dislike it. So Allah says, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ تَوَّابٌ rahim. Be conscious of Allah. Be conscious of Allah, because what it is, Allah is also, He is Tawwab, He is ever returning, and is Rahim, He is merciful. So what we find, respected viewers, right? If you look at all these etiquettes, and as I told you, I took just a handful of them from Surah Hujarat, and you find that in Surah Hujarat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, He tells us about etiquette. It's just 18 verses. You see, of these 18 verses, we can memorize them, we can learn the meaning. It is so simple, And it is something to do with how we coexist day to day, how we coexist among ourselves. Right? It's very, very important, respected viewers, that as you see, also you find that when you talk about this coexistence and manners, you find in Surah also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, right? We all know that thing, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Udu ila sabilika bil hikmah. Even when you speak with wisdom. And when you speak, wal mau'izatil hasana, that is part of coexistence, how you speak. Right, where Allah says, wal mau'i, meaning kind and sweet words you exchange among yourself. And then part of etiquette is wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan, that when you have to argue or debate with anybody, where Allah says, right, wa'atu fa'atu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqin, you must bring your proof if you are truthful. You can't be just talking anyhow and dictating to people. It's an Islamic principle. Right, wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan, that when you have to argue and you have to debate with anybody, bring in proper points and proper facts. So shukran for watching, and before I take leave, please let me make a special appeal to you once again. Open the Quran, chapter 49 is full of wisdom. Only 18 verses. I didn't give you all, I gave you just the selected verses. Go through it, and inshallah, Allah guide us all to coexist and respect one another, irrespective of race, irrespective of religion. And from my side and from our wonderful, team here that we have of Yusuf and Darren and others who've been engineering with me. And I must thank Amar for placing those wonderful verses there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.